Welcome to the year 2021 here on Rauta as well. Everybody knows that 2020 was pretty peculiar and 2021 hasn't shown any signs that it's gonna be different. In fact, in so many ways feels like it's 2020 Pro, 2020 New Game Plus or something like that. We've seen the Capitol Hill stuff here. We've seen lots of sad news. Alexi Laiho, Children of Bodom, passing away, and now Nightwish Marko Hietala announcing that he's gonna leave the band. So not only sad news, but also odd news for many people around the world. I mean, the fandom, the audience, random listeners, it's all gonna be quite turbulent in the field of metal music. And nothing really shows that 2020 is going to be any better. 2021 is going to be any better than the previous year when it comes to gigs. We're going to have more streaming gigs. We're going to have more streaming events. But it seems like things are going to get postponed. Now, the question is, did this affect that Marko Hietala being, famous for his 20 years job with, handling the vocals and the bass in Nightwish? Is that really the reason why things are what they are? Now, it's kind of a hard thing to say for sure. First of all, he gave this kind of a statement like he has mid-level depression of some sort, which is, of course, not of a ridicule. I mean, things like that, mental problems, all the stress from having a successful band, then also having your gigs and tours cancelled, and any other things there might be in the background, it all affects. But there were 2 points mentioned above everything else when it comes to deciding to quit his position in Nightwish. And they were, well, obviously the mental things, depression, but also was mentioned that too many factors, too many middlemen taking too much money. It was trapped, as a bomb, like, hey, Spotify money is going to the Middle East. And people like, what does it even mean? What's going on here and all that stuff? And it was speculated whether it was about Hietala not getting enough money from the band. And then people were already speculating like who would step in to, fill his shoes, or more like, who's gonna take his shoes and step into the band? Will it be one person handling the vocals and bass? How the band will heal from this big wound? Will it be able to continue? A lot of speculation, and I'm gonna add my own layer to this. I know a lot of people gonna disagree. I'm gonna make weirder points, or points that some people are not gonna, agree with or respect, and it's all fine. But first, that's the biggest, elephant in the room, as the saying goes. The thing is, money. What is this Spotify comment, all about? Now, there was a little bit of news article on like Hietala, leaving the band and what this Spotify comment meant. And there was this mention that, some of the money might go to investors who are, in Middle East. But to be honest, so far nothing has really been shown, and so it seems like this Middle East comment is not maybe related so much to Spotify but to Live Nation, which is now, it seems, 5.7% cut owned by a Saudi Arabian investing company, which then again might lead to more like moral dilemma. I mean, Live Nation is a big company having these tours and gigs and whatever, and while Saudi Arabia has problems with, human rights and all that stuff, it might create this crash course, You don't want to maybe operate with a business that has very poor human rights and all that stuff. Now, we're not obviously talking about some black metal bands who might be totally cool with that. We're talking about mainstream metal band who are probably not as cool with that kind of behavior. Now, also it was mentioned that, these streaming services are taking way too big a cut, and that is making these artists suffer, at least when they're not touring and doing gigs. So it's multitude of problems what's going on here. It is also speculated that maybe Marko Hietala is not satisfied with his paycheck coming from Nightwish camp. You know, he's part of the company that operates Nightwish, but let's be honest about it, he's not the main man versus Thomas Holopainen, and who knows how the cuts are with the rest of the crew. So is he really a mercenary operative in the band, or is he just a real member getting real share? And is this just something all else than just, being part of this money-making machine? Now, there was also some numbers dropped, when it comes to how much money Hietala has been making in 2017, 2018, 2019, and it seems it's roughly 1,000 euros, give or take, depending on the year, per each year. And given the average paycheck, what an average human being gets in working in Finland, that's quite a lot of money. I mean, average person is roughly maybe 1/3 or less of that thing. Now, obviously, progressive taxing and all that, well, affects that quite differently. But the point here is, it's not like he's short of money, in fact. So the reason might be and should be somewhere else. Once again, that depression is not something that you just should forget. It's probably the most dominating factor. Well, we also have to understand that Marko Hietala is going to turn 55 soon. Might already be 55 by the time this video comes out. But the point here is, he's not a young man anymore. I mean, it's not like he's in an age of retirement and all that stuff. But let's be honest about it. Metal music, rock music, well, music in general. I mean, we're talking about loud music. It's a young man's game. It's the game where youth really are successful. They have the energy. They don't have maybe family issues. They have just what it takes, way more than olders. I mean, there are lots of old school first wave metal people who are still doing gigs and tours and all that stuff. But we've seen it firsthand. We've seen how some of the older men, I mean, they're already dead. Rest in peace, Lemmy and the like. And that's going to happen sooner or later to a lot more people. We've seen younger people, already dying or suffering from, health issues. So being 55 and touring extensively, sometimes like 200 gigs a year, I mean, it really does take its toll. And when you have family, you have a wife, you have kids, I don't know, other bands maybe even, it's gonna be a hard cookie to crack. It's not just like, hey, let's go on a tour and just celebrate every day and all that stuff. It doesn't even matter if you're not celebrating with, drugs and booze all the time, because otherwise, I mean, traveling from one place to another, all the time being in constant move, it's taxing as hell. Most of us can even, imagine it. I, for one, cannot really imagine it, how it is, like, for real. Even if you have, like, 5-star hotels and still, it's not the same as living in your comfortable own bed with your spouse and all that stuff. So there are many factors to this. Now, also, what was kind of a forgotten when Spotify was mentioned here is that it's not the only streaming services. A lot of fans are doing the bands kind of a disservice by, streaming the music from such platforms as YouTube. I mean, it's different if you are a paying YouTube customer, having YouTube Premium. Then it's pretty much the same as Spotify, Apple Music, and the like. Then you're supporting the artist with your own money, and they get better cut. But so many people are listening music from unofficial, illegitimate sources, which then again means virtually no money to the artist at all. And everybody should know by the time that it's the tours and gigs and of course merchandise sales which make the biggest cut for the artist. So when COVID came around and people are more streaming the music rather than buying the merchandise, CDs, LPs, tapes, or just whatever, stickers, face masks, I don't know. The band is, we cannot say losing money, but they are not getting the money they were supposed to. They're not getting the money that was coming to them if the year was normal, if those tours and gigs were normal. But then again, if you don't have those gigs and tours, then again, this family life and whatever, that's suffering. So you either have one way or another. You have this peaceful time And you don't have to worry about logistics or moving from one place to another, doing yet another show after show after show, meeting the fans, having those few beers, and who knows what recreative trucks there might be. You have one way or the another. So you have this work, and it can be a heavy work as hell, but then you also get the money, right? And then there's this alternative, which means just, laying around, maybe working for your passion project, be it a solo album, be it writing a book, doing some poems, I don't know, hanging around with your family and friends. So many ways to, spend your time. Now comes to curveball, the streamable gigs, the ones that are not exactly live, but it's the next big thing to do when there are no live gigs. And that is one of the topics Hietala also mentioned, like how it is that these companies are taking a big cut and it's not really good for the artist, and they are now expected to work from 9 to 5 business model, which is not very sustainable and working very well for a creative artist. I mean, I get it, I totally do. It's not a 9 to 5 job really, but then again, that's what most of us in the world do. And are we complaining like, boo-hoo, we have to go to 9 to 5? Yeah, if your workplace sucks, if your boss is a douchebag and all that stuff. But I mean, it's kind of a safe environment in the terms of, at least, like, hey, my job shift is about to start in 5 minutes. Pretty cool. And then by the end of the day, hey, 10 minutes and I'm out. You don't have to worry about like midnight calls or emails or like, hey, it's 10 o'clock, time to start streaming. Oh, you feel a little bit, sleepy. Too bad. Get those caffeine tablets, drink a bottle of some sports drink, and you're ready to go, right? So, I mean, you can always get to a regular, real job instead of being an artist. But, jokes aside, the thing is, with depression, everything is in a little different thing. So being 55, creative artist, and having no gigs, and basically your lifestyle is just, getting removed all of a sudden. And then these new players like streamable services and all that stuff come into play and say like, hey, we can get you some work, but you need to pay us handsomely. It all might be too much to change, so quickly. So it doesn't really matter if you're getting a nice paycheck if you feel like it's unfair to you, if you feel like this is not the same, because obviously from an artist point of view, it's not really the same, doing those streamable gigs versus going there on stage, hearing the audience sing with you, and meeting your fans, signing autographs and all that stuff. It's a whole different deal. And that all can get into your mind, and maybe you're like, hey, I'm gonna call it quits. I'm too old for this crap. I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm just gonna do something else. Besides, you still have some rallies going on, so maybe you can figure out, this is my retirement fund. I have all it takes to be, with my friends and family. But like I said, this is a complex thing, way more complex than what this original statement seemed to, suggest us. Because, as you already know by now, there are gigs, there are streaming services, there's Greek streaming services, there are no merchandise sales, COVID is really messing the whole block here, and then there are these humanitarian things or moral dilemma. So it's a multitude of problems, and who knows how much chemistry problems there might be just inside the band. We really don't know because they were not commented. Hietala refused to comment this further on after making this statement. So we don't know but the tip of the iceberg, and the rest is speculation. Not only me doing that, but all those news sources. I mean, mainstream news were making stories and then doing interviews with, label guys or music journalists, radio station hosts, all kind of people. Everybody has an opinion. And also the big question is, who's going to replace Marko Hietala? I mean, he's a talented bass player, but also very talented vocalist. Is it going to be just one person to step up and say, I got it. I can do these even if my voice is a little bit different? And if so, are the fans cool with it? There's a lot of speculation like how fans would be able to digest like these vocalist bass player change, because obviously it's a big thing. But let's be honest about it. Nightwish have survived Tarja Turunen, getting booted from the band. Nightwish have also survived Anette Olsson getting booted from the band. It has also survived, the original drummer leaving the band, etc. So it's like the band is constant motion. And there are other bands which have survived similar situations. Remember Iron Maiden when, Bruce Dickinson left. Or Judas Priest with Rob Halford. Okay, they are back, but still what I mean here is that these kind of big bands, mainstream bands, they are not stopped by smaller problems. They are not stopped even with the bigger problems. Obviously, if Tuomas Holopainen died, that would be the end of Nightwish, most likely. But even more so, the band could still keep going on with the rest of the discography and all that stuff. So it's not likely. I mean, lots of bands have learned from, how Kiss operates. You can just replace the guys behind the mask as long as you can handle the instruments, as long as there's the kind of a face of the band is present there, and it's all good. And sometimes you can even replace the band. Maybe the Kiss approach to the whole music industry could be that, hey, you just hang on the mask, the sound might be a little different, but you still have the music, so it could go on for decades and decades and decades. Who really knows? We haven't seen Kiss stopping just yet, so it might be all eternal. Could it be for Nightwish? Who knows? I mean, we have all this playback technology, we have hologram versions of artists and all that stuff. So it's not that simple nowadays. I mean, back in the days when the artist died, that's it. It's all gone. But we are not in the 1980s or 1990s anymore. We're in the future, so to speak. And technology and the amount of different ways and techniques how to operate, plus the huge amount of talented musicians and vocalists around the world, well, there you have it. So what will happen to Nightwish? I'm not one bit worried. I know the bigger worry is the COVID situation, how it will overcome, how we will deal with it, and how it will affect the future gigs. But when it comes to the band doing live gigs or on stream, that is, and how the new music will be made, I'm not worried about at all. I mean, Nightwish will be keeping their business going, and that's it. But it will be interesting to see how they will replace Hietala. Will it be one person? Will it be two persons, like different vocalists, different bass player? Or will there be some curveball resolution to all of this? Will there be this kind of a talent you have never even heard of? Some unknown bass vocalist person, maybe a female even. We really don't know. And it's going to be interesting to see how all this goes forward. And what is also Hietala's next step? Will he create yet another solo project, or will there be something else? Will Tarot be resurrected? You really don't know. But it's going to be interesting nevertheless. And let's hope this all goes on without extra drama, as it so often seems to be the thing with music industry and also part of metal bands. But let's see. It will be interesting to see how Nightwish goes. And before I conclude, I must once again say, if you love the band, support it with not only words or supportive comments on social media. Support and show your love with money. Buy merchandise, buy those CDs, vinyls, tapes, flags, face masks, whatever. Show the band that you love them in the times of COVID, and rest assured the band will be very happy to continue. That's my take on Nightwish and Marko Hietala case. What is your opinion? What is your idea how the band will continue and how Hietala will continue? Looking forward to hear from you. Take care. Stay safe.